My dear listeners, this is an original sci-fi story I wrote for you. If you'd like to support me, just subscribe to the channel, it really helps the growth. The chairs in the surgical wing of Corvette Station's medical center were designed for 17 body types, which meant they were comfortable for none of them. Mia White had been in hers for 2 hours. She'd stopped noticing it. Her daughter, Layla, was in surgery for a twisted bowel, routine, the surgeon had said, a word Mia was choosing to believe. She had a cup of something the vending unit called coffee and an unread novel, and she was doing what waiting rooms required, the work of simply remaining. She was the only one in the room when the Kara mail came in. She'd seen Kara before, the station had a small trading population, but never this close, never when she was paying attention. He was large even for his species. Gray-plated, four-armed, with a physical presence that made rooms feel smaller. He sat down across from her in the only chair that would fit him, directly opposite. He didn't look at her. He looked at the floor. His upper arms were folded across his chest. His lower arms gripped the chair's edge hard enough to show the strain. She looked back at her novel. She didn't read it. She knew, in a background way, that Kara weren't sociable with non-Kara. They processed fear as aggression, the diplomatic briefings called them volatile under stress, and most of the station's population gave them space. A large, distressed Kara 4 feet away called for careful stillness. She was also aware that he looked like a person who was drowning. She'd seen that look before. She was wearing a version of it herself. She set her novel on the chair beside her. The vending unit makes something it calls coffee, she said. It isn't really, but it's hot and gives you something to do with your hands. Can I get you one? He looked up. His eyes, 4 of them, amber dark and currently fixed on her, had the particular glassiness of someone who had been holding a feeling at arm's length for a very long time. I do not know, he said, if Kara can consume it. Fair point. She looked at the vending unit across the room. It also has hot water if that's safer. Or nothing. Nothing is also a valid choice. He was quiet for a moment. His lower hands tightened further on the chair. Hot water, he said. She got up and got it. The cup was designed for human hands, too small for his, but she set it on the low table between them without comment. He wrapped both lower hands around it. She sat back down and didn't open her novel. My daughter is in surgery, she said, not quite to him, more to the room. Bowel issue. They say it's routine. I'm choosing to believe that. He said nothing for a moment. My cub is in surgery, he said then. An accident. He fell from a loading platform. They do not know yet the extent of the damage. She absorbed that. How old? She asked. 6 cycles. A pause. He was trying to reach something on a high shelf. Something he had been told not to touch. Something that might have been a short exhale. I was standing 3 meters away. She understood that. The particular torture of having been close enough to matter. Layla is 7, she said. She was at a friend's house. I didn't know for 40 minutes. I keep thinking, if I'd picked her up earlier. She stopped. You know how it goes. He looked at her steadily. Yes. They sat with that for a while. The station's ventilation hummed. The vending unit cycled through a self-diagnostic with soft clicks. Do you have other cubs? Mia asked. No. A pause. His mother died 2 cycles ago. It is only us. She didn't say she was sorry. It had always seemed to her that sorry was what you said when you didn't know what else to say, which meant it mostly landed on people who needed something more specific. She said instead, then you've been doing this alone for 2 years. He looked at her again. Yes. That's hard. Yes, he said after a moment. It is. He drank some of the hot water. She drank some of the not coffee. The chair across from her creaked when he shifted his weight, and she noted distantly that she had completely stopped being afraid of him, somewhere in the last 10 minutes without deciding to. She'd been talking to her novel cover for a while when she heard the sound. She'd heard descriptions of how Kara expressed extreme distress. Somewhere in the briefings she'd absorbed without retaining. What it actually sounded like was nothing she had a word for. A frequency that bypassed the translator and went straight to somewhere behind the sternum. A sound that meant the same thing in any language, in any species that had ever had anything to lose. She looked up. He had his upper arms over his face. His lower arms were rigid at his sides. He was very still in the way that something is still when it is spending everything it has on staying still. She did not move away. She stayed 4 feet from him and said, I know. He's still in there. That means something is still happening. That means it's not over. He didn't answer. She hadn't expected him to. The worst part of a waiting room is that there's nothing to do. No action available. You just have to exist in it. We're not built for that. Humans like to fix things, and you can't fix this part. You can only be here. His upper arms lowered slightly. Does talking help? She asked. It helps me. Or I can be quiet. A long pause. Talk, he said. His voice had a roughness the translator struggled with. Talk about something else. So she did. She talked about Layla, about the specific, relentless personhood of a 7-year-old, about the argument they'd had last week over whether clouds were alive, about the drawing Layla made of their apartment that included a large orange fish they did not own. She talked about the novel, about the station's observation deck with its view of the gas giant below, which Layla called the Big Sleepy Planet and had made her promise to visit every time they were on station together. He listened. At some point his upper arms came down. At some point his lower hands stopped gripping and simply held the cup. She got him another hot water without asking, and he accepted it without comment, and that felt like an agreement of some kind. When the surgeon came for her, Mia stood so fast she knocked her novel to the floor. The bowel was fine. Layla was asking for orange juice and something to draw on, which the surgeon found charming and which Mia found so specifically Layla that she had to press her hand over her mouth for a moment. She turned back. He was watching her. His crest. She hadn't known Kara had crests. This one was a narrow ridge along the back of his skull. Had shifted from the flat dark color of his arrival to something lighter. Not calm, but not the edge of breaking. Good news, she said. Yes, he said. I see it on your face. She picked up her fallen novel and thought about a male who had been doing this alone for 2 years. I hope it's good news for you too, she said. Very soon. He looked at her in a way she had no translation for. His crest shifted, a color she had no reference for. You stayed, he said. It was a simple statement. But something in the way he said it suggested it meant more than 2 words usually carried. Of course, she said. Because there wasn't anything else to say. She left to find her daughter. He was still there when she passed the waiting room again. 40 minutes later, Layla asleep against her shoulder. A Kara surgeon was in the doorway speaking to him. His head was bowed. She couldn't see his face. But his crest, even from here, was a color she had no name for. Something between gold and relief and the particular light of a thing that has survived. She walked on, her daughter warm and breathing and heavy in her arms, and thought that some of the most important things she had ever done required nothing except the willingness to remain.